hope you had your morning coffee and all ready and set to go. Yesterday there was a lot of hail and there was a lot of rain. I hope you survived. Some of us had to run through it outdoors. But this time and today it seems to be better. I hope you brought your coffee or your tea, because this next session is about you. It's about you, that you sit down, you relax. And then Casey, based upon Couchsurfing, his own company and story, is going to teach you how can you hack your own identity. How can you become an even better version of yourself? Enjoy. Casey, it's time to come.
Thank you. Well, hello. What a pleasure it is to be here today, all the way from San Francisco. I'd like to start with a show of hands. How many people here have ever wanted to have more impact in your life? Seems like a lot of us, maybe all of us. How many people here have ever wished that you could have more impact, but you felt like it just wasn't getting there? You try as you might, you just weren't getting to the place that you wanted to be. How many people here have ever felt that kind of that frustrated feeling? Maybe all of us, maybe some of us. And how many people here came to TechBBQ hoping to learn something that they could take away for the rest of their life, that could be applicable, that could help them in their endeavors? Yeah, I think it's a great thing. This is such a great event. So happy to bring this here to you. This is a secret I'd like to share with you. It's a secret that I've been trying to figure out for the last 20 years, and I've been working on identity and ego within Couchsurfing, and then in my own leadership, in my various companies and startups. And it's really made a very big impact in my world, my personal world, and then the world for the people I know. So I'm here to share that ego with, I'm here to share the secrets of hacking ego with you today. I think it's not enough to have the right plan. It's not enough to have the right plan. You have to be the right person. I would say even more important than the right plan is being the right person who can make that plan happen. Does that make sense? So how do we become that person? It's not always so easy. Here's a friend of mine, Randy. He spent years working as an architect, and he had a little medical setback, and then he said, I just can't get anything done. It's driving me crazy. Try as I might, I'm just not getting things done, and it's getting worse. So, well, I have this idea, this hack. Let's try it out. Are you up for it? And he's like, yeah, I'll do anything. So we tried this hack out, and then I just talked to him a few weeks ago, and he said, this thing works too well. This was 2 years ago we tried it. This works so well that now he's got the opposite problem. He's a workaholic, and he doesn't spend time with his friends. So now we have a different problem we have to correct for. So it's kind of interesting that at least for him, it had a big impact. So I think there's a big problem in the world, and that problem is that we're all suffering from how our egos or identities work. They're in there somewhere. I think it's kind of biological and maybe software as well. And they're functioning, but we think maybe we know how they work, but do we really? Well, what if we could know how they work? But before that, I'm going to ask you to turn to somebody next to you, and for 10 seconds, what is ego? What is ego to you? Discuss. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. If I had a longer talk, anyone want to just yell out or raise your hand? What is ego? What's ego to you? I think many different things to many people, right? So go ahead. Who wants to shout something out? Is it that early in the morning? What is it? Subconscious. Something subconscious. Yeah, your subconscious. And yeah. The pressure we put on ourselves to perform. Who else? Sense of self. Who else? Someone over here? Just yell it out. All right, well, we'll go with that. a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think that if we could understand human ego and we could hack it, we could reprogram each other. We could be the people that we want to be. So in my studies of human ego, to me, I experience it as the most advanced form of biological technology. It is the thing that got us to where we are today, the thing that made modern society possible. I think a long time ago, we didn't have the ability to identify. Like if somebody said, I don't like you, something like that, would it hit us? Would it hit us in the same way that it does today? But I think over time, and maybe they didn't say, maybe they just kind of expressed that. But over time, this started to affect us more and more. And it's almost like we started to feel life based on whether we had positive or negative feedback from our environment. And I think in life, we have this I'm okay feeling based on how much positive we get and how much negative we get. So if we have 1 unit of negative and 1 unit of positive, 1-to-1, that feels really bad in life. That's what a lot of research shows. That feedback ratio is horrible. We want to run away. We want to just leave. But if we have a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 positive to 1 ratio, 2 positive to 1 negative, that feels neutral. We're okay. We don't feel pain in our amygdala like you would at 1-to-1. But you do not want to go below that. Now, if you reach 4-to-1, that's where you start to thrive. You start to feel really good, and you can actually hear more negative if you have enough positive. Now, if you reach 12-to-1, you can't quite see it here, but if you reach 12-to-1, that's where things become meaningless. Maybe you're somebody in the media who just gets so much positive attention, and you can't even feel what's real anymore. So there's a sweet spot somewhere around 4-to-1 that's really important, and it kind of guides us through life. We get depressed if our ratios are too low and whatever. But that makes sense, I think, to a lot of us. If you're talking with somebody and they say, I don't like you, you're like, okay, I feel worse. If they say, I like you, or I feel better. But something kind of weird happened, I think, a few thousand years ago. Somebody suddenly said, I don't like your car, or I don't like your feather, your rock. And now I feel the same thing. I feel like they just said they don't like me. Why is that? That's so odd. Growing up, I worked on Saab automobiles, and if somebody said I don't like Saabs, I'd be like, oh yeah? Well, you. That I didn't like that. It would feel really bad. Or if somebody said, I love Saabs, I'd be like, yes, it's right. Feels like they just told me I'm amazing. So with this model, we care a lot about what other people think. In fact, we're born and we care, most of us, we care about what other people think a lot. We're tormented by it. And we start to say, it's bad. We've got to remove this care. If only I could just not care about what other people think, right? But it's good that we care what other people think. Imagine we were born and we didn't care about what other people think. We had no feeling. That would be called a sociopath. We don't want that. We do want people to have empathy and compassion because that's what society is built on. It's built on cooperation. We want them to have these cooperative tendencies. And we want them to be, just at the start of life, already pre-programmed for this, instead of the other way around, which we'd never be here today. So it's a good thing that we care about what other people think. I think it's a feature, not a bug. Does that make sense? So when we care about what other people think and they're giving us feedback and we get a high feedback ratio, we're thriving. We're ego banking. We're feeling better about the world, and we start to be able to see the world as it is. But if we get a negative feedback ratio, that doesn't feel good. It starts to feel like pain, and we want it to go away. We want that pain to leave. So what do? We have 2 options. We could get depressed and make a change, or we could invent a story that feels good, but it might get us out of touch with reality. We might create reality debt. How many of you have ever told a story to yourself that made you further out of touch with reality, maybe? I certainly have. I experience that every day. Got to be vigilant about that and say, am I telling myself a story, and is it a good one? Or am I getting depressed and making a change? Depression is healthy. Chronic depression is not. But it's good to sit at home on the weekend and think about a problem. Good. That's a good thing. So again, with enough positive feedback, we can hear that negative. Imagine you're leading someone in your organization. You could give them positive feedback. You could give them negative feedback. You could help them create that identity of the person they want to be, or give them the wrong identity, right? Or they could be doing that for you. We do this to each other all the time in life. And I could say an infinite number of positive or negative things about anybody, really. So I think it's really about the feedback ratio that matters more than the content of the message a lot of times. Something to think about. If you could get 3 positives and 1 negative, that really helps. Now people can hear the negative, the problems. They can hear it clearly, otherwise they can't. So your friends can change your identity much easier than you can for social cohesion. So we go through life and we're paralyzed, we can't change, we can't become the people we want to be, but a lot of times that has to do with the fact that our friends and the context of our life says you're someone else. So if you want to change, the easiest way, I think, biologically to change is get your friends to help you, get your friends to hack you. Become the person they tell you that you are. You will become what your friends say you are. So you go to them and say, hey, I want to become this. I want to get more work done. Can you tell me and show me evidence that that's who I am? It's powerful. We're almost done. We're getting close. So you might say, well, it's not going to work. If my friend knows this hack or I know this hack, I'm going to think this doesn't work. But it does, and here's why. We have multiple brains, as we know. We have the logic neocortex. We have a limbic system. And you can talk to the limbic system or the neocortex completely separately. So, the logic system, it really can't understand things like, or the neocortex, the limbic system can't understand logical things. It can't understand this deck. It's just not possible. But it can understand if I go, that it understands that. Or, threatening body language or excited body language. So try an experiment later on with your friends and try to say 3 compliments. Totally monotonous. You're very great. I think that you're doing a great job on the report. Keep it up, whatever. Now try the same thing again, but in emotional language. I am so thankful that you have put in that extra work on that report. Thank you. Big difference. One lands, one has efficacy, one does not. And I wish I had more time. We'd go through more, but you could get these labels and this identity from various places in life. Now you can see if you try to give yourself identity, I think it has an efficacy of 1. It's 1 unit of effectiveness. This is my estimation. If a friend says you're amazing, you're getting things done, I think that has 3 times the amount of efficacy. So if your friends are telling you one thing and then you're trying to do another, look at just the math doesn't work. You're just not going to become what you want to be if your friends are saying something different. You become the 5 people you hang out with. You know that science, right? That report. This is the same idea. And we will automatically see those things in our identity in our environment. So in our environment, we're scanning, we're looking around, we're trying to make sense what's going on. I'm like, oh my God, Saab automobile. Yeah, that's right. And it pops right into my attention. Anything that's in my identity will just rise right to the surface. So what does that create? That creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever we're programmed with, we automatically become, because that's what we find. Confirmation bias, we will find that it's a snowball. So you have to be very careful of what you're programmed with, how you're programmed. What's in there? What is your identity? You can have growth mindset identities like Carol Dweck, like you are a hard worker, you'll just keep working harder. Or you can have diminishing mindsets. They're exponentially, they're just going down, like you're not enough. You're not lovable. Those are the killer. So you have to reprogram yourself. You have to reprogram yourself into the person that's going to make that plan happen. And you can only do it, I think, with the help of your friends. So here's one more really tough one for me. Sorry to bring this to you, but I think this is important. So we automatically become the identities that people give us. We're giving them as children, we're giving them in work, we're giving them out all the time. But also, society gives them out too, like, magazines at the grocery store, right? Just labeling you, identity, right? You have this situation, criminal. In the United States, it's kind of bad. It's you get a little trouble, and now you're in the criminal justice system. Now you're a criminal. Now everywhere you go, because that's been given to you by society, everywhere you go, you see evidence of, I guess I'm a criminal. I just keep furthering that model. I just find evidence of that. That's horrible. Why do people go into the system and never come out? I think this language is part of it. But we can change it. I don't know here in Denmark, but in other places in Scandinavia, it's the reforming system or the improving system. That's better. So back to my original story. My friend Randy here, he, like I said, he has now become somebody who's a workaholic. So now we've worked on somebody who's got more balance. I'm telling him, oh, I see you as somebody who's got more balance. Look at this evidence of how you were balancing your time between me and that phone call. Great job. I really appreciate that. Now I could say to him, hey, you're just working all the time. You're just a workaholic. Well, I'm just labeling him as a workaholic. Now he's going to further be that because his body, his biology wants to be what other people say he is. You have to be so careful about this. It's so important to make sure that you're labeling yourself and identifying yourself and getting your friends to do that, the things you want to be. And hopefully you do it with evidence of the thing you already are. Because whatever you are labeled as is what you'll find evidence of. Versus eventually you'll become this. It kind of says you're not. Language matters. So everyone, close your eyes. Close your eyes for a second, for a minute. So there you are. It's 5 years from now. It's a great time. It feels good. You've been working on yourself, and you've made some changes in your life, and you feel the benefit of those changes. Imagine some of those changes, maybe one important change you made. And you feel the benefit, and life is so great. It took you some time to get there, maybe. But imagine that 5 years ago, maybe today, you talked to your friends about this. You talked to your friends about who you want to be in 5 years. And they want to help you. They want to help you because they care about you. They want to help you become that person today. Imagine if you work with your friends to reprogram yourself and your friends with whatever you want to be. You can do that today. I see you doing that. Maybe in your mind, some of you. I could see you already as that person. Already as that person able to change. Changing right here, right now. Thank you all. Okay.